from Nick Kiprios, who's writing trade lists these days, by the way. He wrote, staying in the West, I hear the Kings are desperate to shake things up to give themselves the best shot of getting out of the first round of the playoffs and not suffer another defeat against Edmonton. Quinton Byfield isn't a name we've heard come up in trade rumors until this week, but suddenly he could be in play. Perhaps he is the player Los Angeles can move to change their look for an opening playoff round. Harman, Brock Boeser for Quinton Byfield, that's your starting point. How much do the Canucks have to add to get Quinton Byfield here?
It's not happening.
No. Trade meter. Jacob,
he's a pending UFA. Brock's a pending UFA.
Okay, so what do you have to add? How do I get Quinton Byfield to Vancouver, Harm?
I don't think the Canucks, put it this way, the pieces that the Canucks would be willing to dangle aren't going to get it done.
Okay.
And the pieces that LA would want, the Canucks wouldn't be willing to part with.
But should they part with them for Quinton Byfield? Like what? I'm sorry. Let's here's the thing. Let's not beat around the bush. A Canucks fan listening to this, we're not just bringing up Quinton Byfield and they say, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if he'll go to the Penguins." A Canucks fan listening to this is gonna say, "Quinton Byfield, okay, what is it possible for him to come to Vancouver? What pieces are we looking at on the Canucks?" And we talked about it yesterday. We're going to talk about the untouchables for the Canucks. What pieces are there that would make you say, no, you don't want to go out and get Quinton Byfield? Who I think, and you can probably tell by how passionate I am so far, I think Quinton Byfield has some real untapped potential. Like, I think Byfield could be a legit first-line guy in a couple seasons.
I fully agree with you. And that's why, if you're the Kings, in my mind, the only way you would even consider pulling the trigger on a Byfield deal is if he's the equivalent of Martin H.S. and you're finding like a Mikko Rantanen, except in LA's case, they're probably hunting for maybe a player that isn't quite a superstar of Rantanen's caliber, but has term left, right? And so if you're trading Byfield, the Kings are a win-now team. They don't want this magical collection of draft picks and prospects. It's going to be, we want a star that can help us now. And to me, I just don't see how the Canucks can pull that off ahead of the deadline.
Now, this is the card.
Don't bring up EP40 because the Kings don't have the cap space.
Oh, that's your reason. Okay, I was just gonna say, I don't think the Kings want Elias Pettersson if they're trying to win now. If they're trying to make a push for the playoffs, let's go get a lottery ticket. Like, by what indication does anyone think that Elias Pettersson is going to be a player that teams who have a stated goal of we want to get out of the first round, nobody's going out to acquire Elias Pettersson for that. Brock Boeser's a better playoff performer than Elias Pettersson. Maybe a package involving both, but now what are we talking about? Now we're getting a little too crazy, even for me. Karin in the chat said a Byfield trade starts with EP40. I don't think it does.
If there is a scenario where, let's say you get to the summer and LA looks at Anze Kopitar and goes, he's 37 right now. He's going to turn 38. How long is he going to be a high-end top six centerman? Philip Deneau is getting up there in age as well. We need our future first line center, and we thought Byfield was going to be that guy, but he isn't. Now we know that Pettersson is great buddies with Adrian Kempe. Like, you can sort of connect the dots and create a scenario in your mind where the Kings might poke around on Pettersson in, let's say, the offseason when they have some cap space to work with. But I still think, and this is the kicker, Rob Blake went out and made that big swing for PL Dubois. Look how badly that backfired on them. Gabe Velarde has been a terrific fit in Winnipeg. They gave up a lot for him. That contract aged poorly. Do you think Rob Blake and LA's ownership is going to be excited when Rob Blake pulls up and says,
your mic muted at the first time.
Well, when Rob Blake pulls up and says, okay, I know Dubois didn't work out, but hold on a second. I've got a more expensive contract bet, even riskier, higher upside, higher reward that I'd like to make. When you've been burned once like that before, I don't know, if you were Rob Blake, I wouldn't be I wouldn't feel like I would have the leash and the job security to make that type of ballsy swing.
Brock Boeser, on the other hand, playoff performer, Brock Boeser. So I'm sorry, are we saying that Quinton Byfield's not going to be a Canuck? Because there's a lot of trade proposals in the chat right now. I'm going to read a couple. Brandon Ryan, Byfield for Höglander, Susie, and a second. Where'd it go? There was one from Tripp. Byfield and Brant Clark for Boeser, Ratu, and a second.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
very realistic proposals. Very, very realistic. I love that. Why don't you add Adrian Kempe too while you're at it?
It's sounding like
speaking my language, Harm.
It's sounding like I'm going to have to fire up the NHL 25 trade simulator again for tomorrow.
I'm not joking. Get it done, Jacob. Get it done. We got to have it for tomorrow. And Tripp actually making a good point here as well. Brant Clark, he was on the block when Doughty came back. Facts only, Harm. I can't tell if Harm is frozen or just disappointed in me.
I'm just disappointed I'm not frozen.
Okay.